which is anchored on the pre-designed KPI criteria, which can help reduce the coupon rate afterwards. In particular, in South Asia, I think that this kind of experience can be replicated and applied in Central Asia region, in particular for the Middle Corridor project program design. So I look forward to further collaboration that are working closely with various stakeholders in the region to support the Middle Corridor project. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Now I will jump from Asia to the ISDB group and will ask Mr. Noor Dali about access to trade finance remains a key constraint for businesses along the corridor. So from ITFC perspective, what practical solutions can help improve access for these businesses, and how can ITFC collaborate with development partners, including other MDBs, to deliver a more integrated financing approach?
Thank you, Sister May. So thank you for having me with you today, and good morning to everybody. I just want to quick introduction of what ITFC is. It stands for the International Islamic Trade Finance Corporation, a subsidiary of the Islamic Development Bank Group, was established in 2008 for the full purpose from the name is for trade finance. It existed therefore now for almost 19 years now, 19 years of activities this year. We have done over $93 billion of trade finance on funded basis. Well, we have also business or unfunded, which is letter of credit. Just also to add that although we exist 2008, but as an activity or function of trade finance, it existed since 1977 within the IDB. We used to be a department in IDB when the IDB was established at that time, 1977. So the key point to remember is that in IDB, when they do the purpose of IDB is for socioeconomic development through project. It was the first multilateral to recognize the important role of trade in bringing the additionality to the socioeconomic development of member countries. So what happened is that IDB created trade finance from the inception, as they believe as an integral part of development, and this has become part of our tradition for trade, and other multilateral come with trade later on. So cumulatively between 77 until now, we have done more than $130 billion of trade finance, taking into account the component when we do in the IDB. That said, although we do trade finance and the ITFC as our main activity, we also have another pillar which is trade development and trade facilitation, trade link capacity building activities. So the trade finance part in any of type of ambitious project like a corridor is very important in the sense that it bring, as I say, that the corridor will bring the connectivity between region, and trade finance combined with trade facilitation connects the dot, all right, which is missing from hard infrastructure to come to the soft infrastructure. That said, trade finance by itself, or trade facilitation itself, is not the solution. Okay, we see we have a limitation coming up for the potential for trade in the corridor. But trade finance, it cannot create trade first. The trade has to exist, all right? We are become an enabler, a catalyst for the trade to happen. But first, the trade has to be there, all right? And we will come in the picture after or when it is ready. But that said, therefore, the trade potential exists. The bottleneck, it will not be in the trade finance, but it how you can bring a good, very simple. What is trade is, international trade is good, a good to from place A to place B. Somebody has agreed to buy that good, and a shipping to bring it from the A to B, and the finance will come in to pay for that goods. So this is what I'm trying to say is the process. The trade finance or the trade payment will come after. Therefore, any bottleneck in this transport value chain, all right, will limit the possibility to do trade finance, will limit the possibility for the SMEs and corporate within the corridor to interact. So we are happy to be able to be part of it. However, the limitation faced by SMEs and business operators is not only limited to the corridor, but all over the world. We know, for example, according to ADB estimate, the trade finance gap for SMEs is estimated at $2.5 trillion, all right? And that's huge. And see, we alone cannot be a solution. We need to join hands with all our partners. So the way the solution I can see is we work hand in hand on with the development of infrastructure coming up in place, create the environment for the trade to happen. Trade finance, people like ITFC and other multilaterals can join hands to bring financing to SMEs through empowering local banks, putting line of finance to them. Now, another aspect is once this potential is going up, all right, ITFC can play its role of fund mobilizer. Why? Because ITFC within our trade finance, all right, mobilize $4 for each dollar it put in any financing. So today, ITFC is a recognized ranked number one by Bloomberg as a lead mandated arranger in Islamic syndication. So we have the potential, we have got a reputation, so we can do it. Just that the trade has to exist, and then we can bring our. Now, when we do trade finance, we recognize also that trade finance itself is not a solution. We need to create what we call trade solution. That's where we bring in trade development, trade facilitation initiative, as well as capacity building, trade-related capacity building to put in place. And I wanted to say that we, less than 2 years ago, we put up a program, an ambitious program called Trade Connect Central Asia Plus. Trade Connect Central Asia Plus, because plus mean Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan is not part of Central Asia, so we call it plus. This involves 6 countries in the region from Kazakhstan to Azerbaijan that we want in order to develop the trade infrastructure, soft infrastructure, which involve trying to see how we can do, among other things, is enhancing paperless, borderless custom procedures, digitalization of shipping document and custom document, interoperability of digital system while maintaining national security and sovereignty over their own system. Interoperability is very important. Data exchange and coordination between private sector and government agencies in order to make it happen. So we're working on that. We look forward for partners to join us in this program, but we're working with the countries, and we are proud that we already started a few projects in Central Asia that is aligned to the Middle Corridor initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so they have to be trade, then we come with financing trade. I think that's a very important element to consider, because we think that just trade finance comes in and we don't think what is happening on the ground. So thank you very much for that, and adding the ITFC perspective on working on the whole ecosystem to make sure that there is trade solution, facilitation, and financing. Now I turn to Ms. Yang, and this is a smooth transition from discussion on SMEs to talk about the private sector. So AIB is playing a key role in financing sustainable infrastructure and advancing regional connectivity, while also catalyzing the private sector participation. So given the significant untapped capacity along parts of the Middle Corridor, what are the most bankable PPP components across the corridor, and how can AIB support this structuring?
Thank you, Moderator May, and I'm encouraged by the opening remarks made by Excellency Rahman. He summarized really well all the critical elements of the Middle Corridor. Especially Azerbaijan played a critical important role in enabling the middle corridor investment, operational efficiency, and also PPPs. So I think our speakers prior to me have already made it very clear. Mr. Ayumi-san already mentioned, number one priority is funding the bankable projects. Because for middle corridor, as moderator, you correctly highlighted, you will need 28 billion over the next 3 years. So the infrastructure is still the number one priority for making the middle corridor working. We need more projects. It's not just roads, railways, but also vessels, fleets, ports, airports, operational systems, digital platforms. There are many operators in this middle corridor need to work together. Because middle corridor, the number one feature is a multimodal corridor. It's not just one single infrastructure sector. So everything needs to work together. So I think you can see the countries like Azerbaijan has done a lot of modernization. Over the past few days while I'm here, I have been meeting with Azerbaijan authorities and SOE companies. I'm deeply impressed. They have started tackling the operational efficiency, reliability, and predictability. So the number one issue is infrastructure. Number two is operational efficiency. As you actually, Excellency Rahman highlighted in your opening remarks. Because for us to make in middle corridor attractive for investors, for shippers, the most important thing is whether it is reliable, predictable. Currently, you have, in the old days, it took 1 month to transport. Currently, it's about 18 days. It's still too high. So how do we really reduce the number of days? How do we really increase reliability? So in Azerbaijan, I can see they already set up mutual transport, which is really responsible for all different kind of models. They have set up the Eskom holding company managing mega SOEs. Yesterday, I was also very impressed. I visited Eskom shipping company. They are actually thinking seriously, investing the vessels, digital platform, and increase the different port capacities, and also operating very closely with countries like Kazakhstan to see whether they can actually provide something like a supply chain management system for shippers, for investors. So the number two priority is actually the institutions, infrastructure, and also operations. These three things need to work together seamlessly. Number three, I think the moderator asked me to answer. I think my colleagues already answered very well on the PPP. So for middle corridor, the current traffic level will not attract everything by private sector. There will be a lot of standalone projects need to be invested by government resources, by sovereign-based financing. And then it is very critical to have organization like MCDF to provide grants to prepare the projects, where the projects could actually, you structure projects where you can finance by sovereign bank financing, no sovereign bank financing, or SOE, also financing, and concessional financing, first loss, guaranteed, partial-based credit guarantee, blended financing. All these are possible, but provided those enabling environment highlighted by my colleague, Dr. Jung-woo, is very important. You have to have all these ingredients to enable a proper PPP structure. So I will not repeat. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Now I have a question for all of the panel members. You have been working for ADB, AIB, MCDF, and ITFC, so covering the work with the public and private sector in Asia, covering Africa and the rest of the world through MCDF and for ITFC. So from your collective experience across the different regions and sub-regions, what is the one key lesson that can be applied to the further development of the Middle Corridor? So if you think of one key lesson that you have seen in different regions or in sub-regions, or something that you think is successful and you need to bring it to the attention for those working on the Middle Corridor. I will start by Zhang Wu.
So perhaps it's a bit challenging question only to select one key issue. Perhaps.
I can give you two.
Yeah, okay, so that's very generous for me. Thank you very much. First, I'd like to highlight the importance of the well-designed project preparation. So not only the downstream, but the upstream, midstream, the feasibility study, diagnostics, economic analysis, procurement design, safeguard, both environmental labor standard. Those are very important, crucial point to ensure the success of the project design afterwards. For example, in ADB, we have launched a new project preparatory facility, which is called the Climate and Sustainability Project Preparatory Fund, which is donated by both Korea and Chinese government, which could be a very useful vehicle which can be used for the feasibility study for the various infrastructure projects for the Middle Corridor going forward. That's one information to share with you. Another key component is that outcome-based project design and the implementation is quite crucial. Just instead of just focusing on the expanding the cargo volume and the capacity of the port, but we need to pay more attention to the outcome. What kind of the ultimate goal we would like to achieve? For example, the Middle Corridor development should contribute to reducing the border delays, the lowering the trade costs, and the facilitating cross-border payment transit. How much these kind of outcomes we can ensure to achieve through various types of infrastructure project and the soft infrastructure connectivity across the different stakeholders in the region. So in that sense, properly designed the KPIs should be put in place upfront, and then each step of the progress should be measured against that kind of pre-designed benchmark and criteria, so we can measure ourselves how much progress we have been made and what more needs to be done, and what kind of external financing should be mobilized, et cetera, et cetera. So those are 2 points I'd like to highlight. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Yang?
Thank you, moderator. I think the number one priority of Middle Corridor is political commitment. The way we work with all the countries involved in Middle Corridor, we are very encouraged about the political commitment, really the coordination among the countries are now up to very high level, because this hasn't been seen in the past. So this is crucial to building the blocks along the corridor, and very, very importantly, from our multilateral development banks, we have a very critical role to play, especially ISDB and all the development banks. One critical symbol we can highlight now is the INRAIL projects we invest in Turkey. All the IFIs will invest $6 billion just for that project. And AIB invested 1.5 billion, World Bank invested 2 billion, ADB will invest also 1.5 billion, ISDB invested, and EIB, and all the related OPEC fund and others. So that is a very great symbol happening in Middle Corridor. Actually, we are now not just approve the project, by signing is coming very soon, in weeks' time. So that kind of level of commitment, the scale, the speed, the coordination mechanism, the implementation readiness are very, very important. And we hope we have more samples like this to actually invest at that level of scale. And not only that, the important thing is also how to mobilize private sector investment. There are many SOEs along the corridor. Another great sample I can highlight is recently AIIB invested Kazakhstan railway projects. It's a bypass new railway project along the middle corridor. We invested nearly 600 million through guarantee mechanism. So that guarantee mechanism will unlock multiple times higher commercial financing because of the back of a AAA-backed agency, together with World Bank MIGA. That is another great example on how the Kazakhstan KTZ, the railway agency, is able to unlock the private commercial bank investment. It's coming. It is also done in a record time. So these are the two examples just happening this year. And in my department, we made it happen by working together with all other multilateral development banks. We look for more collaboration in also in countries like Azerbaijan. We are about to work with ADY together with ISDB and OPEC Fund. So all these are lovely examples already happening. So commitment is very high, the coordination is in place, MDB's role is crucial. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ayoni?
Thank you. I think, okay, first of all, I started working for MCDF just about 4 years ago, but before that, I was with the Asian Development Bank for over 30 years. So, that I've been sort of, dinosaur in the development banking business. So, from that perspective, let me, Ms. May, let me respond to your question of what is most important lesson I have learned. I think the most important thing, really to carry forward the regional cooperation initiatives, such as, Middle Corridor development, is one single lesson I can bring here is to be pragmatic. Okay, what I'm saying is this. Now, at least we've been talking about $28 billion of infrastructure investment needs. I'm not really sure whether that includes trade finance part or not. Maybe actually trade finance come on even on top of that. Now, if you try to mobilize $28 billion in one go, okay, even you try, you cannot really achieve that. You basically try to work out that framework. You're gonna make that particular task impossible. Just like, people say, if you want to travel 1,000 miles, you got to start with the first step. Same thing, if you want to mobilize $28 billion plus, we got to start working with the first project. Why I emphasize this is because, as we started working on so-called regional cooperation, activities, there is a, I shouldn't say, there is a tendency that, the people in that arena would like to come up with some framework first. And then let us agree on some framework, and then, from there we're going to work on. Probably that approach won't work. More pragmatic thing is something, we said, in the Asian Development Bank, said for the CAREC, that, 2 plus X, 11 minus X. What it really means is, okay, CAREC, gives support, it's participated by 11 countries. But then, as long as among 11, 2 countries agree to do something together within a broader framework or vision, they should better start to make things happen. There is no need for 11 countries to agree something to start things. So, that's why this, 2 plus x, 11 minus x principle of CAREC would probably apply for the middle corridor development as well. That, now you don't really have to think about the framework first. Okay, actually, the framework is broadly there, this concept of middle corridor development. From there, what I'd like to suggest is really as a matter of priority, over the next 12 months or even 6 months, come up with a project we can work together. And then from there, we learn about the mechanisms. And what I'm saying is this is because the MCDF actually supported AIIB and the Islamic Development Bank to carry out, middle or the Central Asia connectivity study for the past several years. And on MCDF side, actually we've been waiting for some project to come out from that study because we want to see something really to happen. Now, in that context, again, talking about, this pragmatism, I also, would like, everybody to recognize the fact that, actually, even, for the middle corridor, there are so many, quote, quote, regional cooperation initiatives already out there, including, CAREC, but then, there are some initiatives outside of CAREC, and, that's all fine. That, regional cooperation or connectivity, if we are to really work on the connectivity among the countries, we really don't have to stick with one particular framework, whatever works. I mean, like, when we were working, on CAREC, that, the CASA 1000 really came out, not really as part of CAREC as such. HAPI didn't come out as part of the CAREC, but then still, those are very important part of, development initiatives to link or connect these Central Asian countries together. And I certainly hope that, for middle corridor development, similar thing will happen. Or I can also talk about this, pragmatism in the context of my personal experience in supporting the establishment of CAREC Institute. Back in 2014, when CAREC member countries were talking about the establishment of CAREC Institute, actually it seemed that, they cannot really agree on some of the basic principles for the agreement. And people thought that, that they have to have the agreement before they start CAREC Institute. So, okay, there was a senior officials meeting in Kyrgyzstan, Isiku, Kyrgyz, in 2024 or 2014, August. And that time, so, as I was chairing one of the sessions at the senior officials meeting, I asked the representatives of those countries that, hey guys, would you like to keep debating these legal aspects forever? Then we may not really see the CAREC Institute in the next decade. Or shall we just put this, debate over the legal, agreement aside, but then start working on the program together first? And then actually all the representatives, senior officials who represent countries said that, actually we'd like to see the program start moving before we agree on the legal stuff. So then, so in 2015, we basically started doing things in parallel. Keep debating on, again, the legal aspects, but then launching the program. So if you look at the CAREC Institute's history, it's interesting that you're going to find two inauguration dates. One is the initial event before the official agreement, because official agreement was signed, adopted at the 2016 CAREC Ministerial Conference in Islamabad. And so only after that country signed, and then it took a year, for the ratification and process. But then, all those years, actual correct institute programs were happening. And I do hope that, the middle corridor development will also follow in a way, similar way, be pragmatic, be practical, do things what we can possibly do, and by doing things, we learn more. And let me emphasize once again that, MCDF will be there to support the efforts of our implementing partner organizations, including the Islamic Development Bank, and what MCDF can guarantee is a very fast approval of the proposals. We usually approve the projects in 3 months. Now, and then we also, before the approval, we share the proposals with all our international financial institution partners. So the information is shared regardless of which framework or regional cooperation framework we're talking about. Let me stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Last but not least, Noor Dali, please.
Yes, thank you, May. From the trade finance point of view, when it comes to financing of corridor trade, most likely will be supply chain financing to be provided by banks. And when it comes to corridor trade, it's perceived as high risk by all commercial banks. International was the most international commercial bank were involved in supply chain. This is how they behave, because they see some depending on stability, but different jurisdiction, different mode of documentation, and also stability of the logistic on the way from what they call it, let's say in the middle corridor from China go up to Turkey, all right? So any perception of risk, right? Bank appetite are quite, risk, you're very risk averse, so the appetite is less. But nevertheless, we need to make things happen, okay? That's where the role of multilateral. We don't wait for things to be there to work. So we need to create the environment to bring people to other banks to join. So this is our role, I would say, as multilateral. So I'll give you my own example. We talk about, I also like my colleague said, I think I also a dinosaur. I have 30 years experience in trade finance. So from Asia to Africa. So I have a lot of experience, for example, in Africa, where we do export cotton supply chain finance from production until export to Southeast Asia. From production, fertilizer financing, up to getting paid from export. So this goes into production, multimodal transport, by rail, truck to the port, from West Africa to a port, then put on ship and send. So this is the model of corridor, I would say, if we want land and sea corridor. And we've been through that, we know the challenges we have to face. But being a multilateral, when we put ourselves into the business, we mobilize funds from other banks to tell them, hey, I can do it, would you like to join me? So this is how we do the job. Somebody has to make the first move, right? And multilateral is ready most of the time to take a risk that a commercial bank don't want to take, because commercial bank look at pure risk and return. Okay, we look at the development aspect, not just the risk and return. So ITFC can play that role. We also multilateral, where we can bring the necessary risk mitigation in place, including other tools, financing, but also insurance, payment guarantee. ADB can provide, for example, they do that. Can work together to create a risk mitigated environment that can help to mobilize funds from other banks to put in transaction in the corridor development, and also channel it most maybe through local bank in the countries involved, so that we get prepared for financing the middle corridor trade. But again, it also therefore depends on how the project on the structure is going. And also don't forget the soft component I mentioned earlier, harmonization, standardization of documents. This is crucial in making the trade also efficient. all right? And that make this type of initiatives that make commercial bank also become comfortable to come into the business in the region. So yes, there are risks because of jurisdiction, but also documentation, but we can overcome it when we put our hand together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, colleagues, join me in giving a round of applause for the panel before I turn to you to ask questions. So now the floor is open. If you have a question or a comment, an experience that you want to share in line with the discussion. Anybody from the floor? Okay, yes, at the back. Can somebody share a microphone? Ahmed.
Thank you very much and good morning. My name is Omar Davis, Country Operations Manager in East Africa for the Islamic Development Bank. My question is not so tied to this regional corridor, but it's in reference to this issue of fuel price instability. And our member countries are asking us regarding our participation in helping them to control this fuel. Fuel comes in, for example, in the port. Let's use Djibouti as an example. Fuel will come in, and then they distribute this fuel out to the different neighboring countries, the landlocked countries, Ethiopia and others. And they've asked us to help them with this. It's not necessarily linked to transport, but it's linked to this logistics around commodities, around food and other things, fuel and other things. Just wanted to know your thoughts on this as how can we help to support our member countries, our landlocked member countries with these type of commodities, bringing in the logistics, bringing them into the port, and then of course moving them into the inner lands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar. Any other question before I turn to the panel? Or any comment? Okay.
Thank you, Omar. I think Omar Davis, right? Yes. So I think it's a very pertinent question right now when it comes to fuel, because any economy cannot run if there is no adequate, consistent, continuous supply of energy product to the country. So we know that we finance in our portfolio, about 60% of our portfolio is made up of energy sector financing. So what you see in Africa is not only limited to Africa, particularly talk about Djibouti as a gateway to landlocked countries like Ethiopia mostly, but you have the same case in West Africa and in Central Asia. And currently the problem is that from taking into consideration recent geopolitical political situation in the region, supply has been limited and price has gone up very fast, and countries cannot, politically speaking, cannot or will not want to increase their price immediately. They want to therefore absorb the shock, and that creates more requirement for financing because the price has gone up very high, and they want to absorb it, which will create pressure on their budget, on the financing requirement, and at the end on the debt level of the country to the GDP. Now, not only that, we have also the issue of sanctions coming up on some countries. For example, in Central Asia, their main source of supply of energy product is from the Russian Federation, all right? And today, and they have no other choice. I mean, where would they buy? Well, they can't buy even from the Gulf or from other. It can't to come, it's commercially viable to come from there. However, when we want to finance them, bank refuse to make payment because they say Russia is under sanction. They refuse the payment to go to the concerned entity that is supplying it. And this is another problem we are facing, not just the question of supply, also of payment. And more, and the sanction is evolving. So, and what we see last week, there's something else been added all the time. So it's becoming a nightmare for compliance people in the bank in order to tackle it. So this is what you're saying there. In this week, we met a lot of member countries that are talking about the same issue, and it creates a real problem in that price goes up, more financing, fiscal imbalance, as well as debt. The level of debt is increasing.
Thank you very much. Yes? Dr. Osman? Sorry if someone can.
Thank you, May. Osman Al-Fil, I'm an ex-IDB staff but working now as a consultant with Badia. Badia is the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa. And there my question to Mr. Ayoumi, because you said that from your finance arm that Africa is really, using maybe the bulk of your financing. And as we are in Badia concerned with the regional integration in Africa and also the transport corridors in Africa, I would like just maybe to know if you can make some sort of comparison between the challenges that this middle corridor facing as compared to from your experience, with the challenges that might be facing the trade and transport corridors in Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Interesting question. I have to say my personal knowledge on Africa is a bit limited, even though in my younger days I stationed in Addis. At one stage in my life I was a staff of the Economic Commission for Africa. But of course, since that time I know that Africa has developed so much. And there are many emerging investment needs. At least more and more I study about Africa, I realize that there are many interesting project ideas, but then they are half-baked, half-developed, not really pursued, partly because of the shortage of financial resources to develop the upstream development of projects. There are many facilities actually to facilitate the initial step to think, come up with the ideas. But then there is a missing sort of middle to develop such ideas into the, let's say, bankable project proposals as such. I'm really, as I mentioned in my earlier presentation, I'm one of those who strongly believe that, the infrastructure financing gap, so-called, is not really an issue of finance, but it's really an issue of how to make sure that we work together to develop good ideas into, quote, quote, bankable project proposals. In the process, if there are people from private sector, I'm sorry to say this, but then in my life, I learned that, private sector tends to be very risk averse. And, basically, as we try to promote private sector investment into projects, either through the PPPs or non-sovereign project, we really have to make sure or make a very clear case to the private sector that, okay, this particular investment opportunity is likely to be very profitable. Without that, private sectors, usually don't really come in. So, comparing that, in the middle corridor situation and Africa situation, I should say that, what at least I've been seeing in Africa, there are already many more project ideas, which are sort of, half-baked, or, okay, seeds are there, but then not really properly planted and then being sort of watered. Is, I think, I feel the situation in Africa, but I certainly would like to learn more from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You would like to add?
Yeah, I just want to add, since it's a very interesting question, and also including the earlier question raised by our operational head in Africa. I came here from Africa. This trip, I traveled from Algeria to Baku. Algeria is a country, I just want to use it as an example, has not engaged multilateral development bank for many years. But now they are very keen. They actually here, the finance minister is in this ISDB annual meeting. So we are working with African Development Bank to develop a corridor north-south. In Algeria, the total investment is 2.5 billion. In addition to that, we are actually developing more connectivity in the country because that's critical to connect the Africa continent because their own target is more than double their railway lines. They already have about 6,000 kilometers railway lines. They want to expand. So I discussed with the Ministry of Finance people, public works, transport, etc. So we decided to talk to ISDB. Because this is ISDB annual meeting, I just want to highlight that good example is actually happening in Africa. ISDB has a great role to play. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for an excellent panel, for all the points raised and shared today, very insightful. I think there are key takeaways for us, but one important one is about partnership and the importance of coming together in the different countries that we have, providing our innovative and different instruments, be it for the public sector, be it through trade finance, with the private sector, PPP, and as well as having MCDF helping with preparing bankable projects. Thank you very much. That was a very, I think, informative and fruitful discussion. And I would like to have a final round of applause for the panel, and then I hand over to Shahraya.
Thank you very much for the excellent session. And before I move to the closing side, if there is anybody else who would like to raise any question, just wanted to make sure that we still have a bit of time. So if there's, we have one more question, if we can take one.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mariam. I work for a global fund on digital transformation. And I want to ask, from your opinions in general, what are the impacts of digitalization in the context of middle corridor on transport and trade, specifically on this middle range where there is a lot of cross-border cooperation? Thank you.
Let me go first. Okay, now from MCDF's perspective, for us, we basically prioritize 4 sectors, transport, including trade facilitation, trade development, that's one, energy sector, and then transboundary water resources management, but then 4th is digital connectivity. And actually, digital, I always feel a bit strange to talk about digital as a sector, because it's a sector, at the same time it's cross-cutting. That as we talk about developing any sector, energy sector connectivity, transport connectivity, all these things got to go with digital in today's context. So I have to say, digital development in, the development of middle corridor development is essential, and I certainly appreciate that in terms of the fiber cable connectivity, internet speed in this part of the world. Okay, there are some issues still need to be addressed, is what it is. again, let me repeat once again that MCDF is more than happy to work with institutions like Islamic Development Bank, AIIB, to really help address such issues. Thank you so much.
Actually, I've been in Chengdu, China last week to attend the APEC meeting where the AIIB actually organized the seminar on the digital infrastructure and digital public infrastructure, DI&DPI. For one of the sessions, I moderated myself with the attendance of various stakeholders. So ADB side, we are very keen in the supporting digital transformation. In the context of Middle Corridor, I think the acceleration digital transformation is quite crucial, very crucial, to streamline custom procedures and to ensure the interoperable transit system across the different borders at the same time. From our side, ADB, I can share with you latest development from our side, two initiatives. First one is the so-called correct advanced transit system, which is the user interface where all the stakeholders, including the guarantors and the customs officials and the trade operators, can interact with each other to exchange information in real time. Another initiative from our side is to support correct member countries, so-called ICE, Information Common Exchange, which is centralized the digital platform where the transit messages can be exchanged among the departure, transit, and destination countries. So this kind of the digital transformation will be quite crucial to streamline border procedures, harmonize and customs procedures, and to support advanced ruling, advanced declaration, e-declaration, because the fragmented paper process will fall short of unlocking the full potential of the middle corridor going forward. So that's the key takeaways.
Let me also add, I think this issue will come up. So, for example, the logistic platforms in Middle Corridor currently, I just give you several examples. The digital freight marketplaces, cargo visibility platform, supply chain management systems, intermodal booking platforms. I asked this question in my meeting over this week to all the parties I'm meeting. And my understanding is they are considering it, but the whole Middle Corridor is still in a very early stage when it comes to customer modernization, border management systems, corridor-wide data platforms. But countries are very, very committed. They are working on that. So for digital platforms, it will be very important to have both public and private sector to play a role. It cannot be solely private sector. It might be very, very difficult to start with, because many digital platforms, if you just rely on a user fees, it might not be enough to pay the digital infrastructure, which is very, very expensive, because we need to have the foundational digital infrastructure to be able to operate and then build the confidence of shippers, and to especially the key end goal, the KPI, is to reduce the transit time end to end. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the excellent answering the questions. Once again, a round of applause for all the panelists over here. And now I would like to call Mr. Hussein Mughebel, who is the Manager for Economic Infrastructure at the Islamic Development Bank, for the closing remarks. And I would still like the panelists to keep seated, because we will have a photograph just after the closing session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shahryar. Thank you, May. Thank you for all the panelists. I would like also to thank the Ministry of Digital Transformation and Transport for hosting and supporting the organization of this side events of ISDB. It's very rich discussion, and I think we have discussed the topic from different angles, which is very fruitful, and we are lucky to have this mix of the panelists. Thank you so much. it's very clear that with the efforts made so far, the medical corridor is delivering, and there is freight volumes have been grown substantially in recent years. Transit time have been reduced, and containers traffic is surging. However, with this real achievement that every contributor to this should be proud of, still there is high potential to address the challenges. As mentioned during the discussion, there are some bottlenecks still remain: physical, digital, financial, investment, and across the discussion that has been highlighted. One of the most important topics that has been addressed also related to the upstream part, which is having bankable projects preparation. We have the inputs from the MCDF and also the other panelists. Preparation of feasibility studies, addressing the issues of capacity buildings, and this is related also to the private sector appetite to contribute, because without having bankable projects, ready studies, there will be some issues with the private sector involvement. Such regional and corridor projects usually needs huge investment, and this is also new financing modalities, as discussed by colleagues, needs to be developed. In addition, all MDBs cannot cover the needs, and the private sector is important. New financing mechanism and modalities needs to be developed, and also, most importantly, effective regional coordination mechanism are essential between different stakeholders that needs to be involved. In today's discussion, there are some critical rules. The partnership coordination is important, as highlighted by our esteemed panelists. And there is a role that everybody can play in strengthening the cooperation, including MDB, which has the networking advantage, and they can coordinate with the governments and other private sectors and so on. So harmonizing the role and playing the coordination role by MDBs, we are here different entities. Even in the panelists, we have the investment bank, AIB, you have the development banks, ISDB, ADB, and we have the preparations tool for projects, MCDF, we have trade finance. So developing a working group with different players, different entities that have different mandates could play a very substantial role in coordinating efforts to move this dialogue into a very clear action plan. And this is the next step we are looking for after having this dialogue, is to think about what's the concrete programs, concrete action plan that we could have after this dialogue. Thank you very much again, and looking forward to next steps after this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hussain Mughebel. Please remain on stage, Badr Hussain, and if you can have a group photo. Badr Hussain Mughebel, can you please come on the stage? Yes, thank you.